There's a whole heap of reasons why I'm absolutely thrilled about this shoe and that I can bring it to you guys today, but I've made a promise to myself that I keep the chat for the back of the video, and at the very start of the video we get into the details of the shoe, and I'm going to do that right now. And we're going to start with the branding, then we'll get into the materials, then we'll get into the rest of the shoe, and at the end of the whole thing we'll get into the reasons why I'm glad that this one's come along. So first things first, branding. It really struck me on this shoe about the branding, and I really appreciated the SB element on there, because we've done a lot of Nike Dunk highs, but SB Dunk highs have a slightly different thing going on with them. Just like their low counterparts, the SB Dunk lows versus Dunk lows, there's differences in the construction, differences in the air units, differences in the padding and stuff like that. And when it comes to these guys, that SB branding on there really stood out to me. So I thought that would be a great place to start, and the best place to start for me of the three, there's three branding points that I want to get to on the shoe, is up there on the tongue. So if we get as close to the tongues as we can on the old green screen here, it's not the best picture in the world, and it might not be the best audio in the world right now. I don't know if you can hear one of my dogs having a scratch away on the sofa beside the camera. Like that. I tend to leave that kind of stuff in the videos. Hopefully you don't mind. Yeah, the branding. So up there on the tongues, what you've got going on, what on earth is she doing? Maybe she doesn't like dunks, or maybe it's dunk highs. But the thing is, I'm absolutely in love with this sneaker. I think it's absolutely stellar, and I can't wait to actually try and get my hands on it. It's one of those ones that's on the sneakers app with the draw date. So it's not just a straight up W. You have to enter the draw to try and get them, fingers crossed. But anyway, back to the branding on these guys up on the tongue. Now, the thing that I really appreciated about it is that it's a yellow tongue with a black branding panel with yellow branding on it, and I like that structure. That's part one of why I like the branding that's going on the tongues, especially when we compare it to the recent shoe that I did, which was the Game Royals. I'm glad I remembered that. The Game Royals, which were also a high, not a low, but the branding up on the tongue of those Game Royals, if I remember rightly, it was a white tongue with a white branding panel and blue branding on it, and I didn't like the white, blue. I think it should have been white, blue, white. She's making a heck of a racket. But I do appreciate that on these guys, that it's black, it's yellow tongue, black branding panel, and yellow branding on there. So they've got yellow, black, yellow instead of yellow, yellow, black, or black, black, yellow. So I kind of appreciate that about it. But even more than that, I appreciate the fact that the tongue has a lining around the edge to stand in contrast to that in black. So it's kind of like mixing it up in there as well. So as far as branding goes, the Nike swoosh SB at the top of the tongues is a great little touch, which you always get with SB Dunk highs. But then on top of that, you've also got the way they've constructed the color in the tongues and the branding on there. So I wish I could take the camera off the tripod and show you this. She's like dug deep into the sofa right now. Now she's trying to leap across the back. There's cushions strewn across the floor, and I just keep barreling on as we do at the Tokyo Butter 23 channel, and we'll barrel on to the next piece of branding, which is on the insoles. So looking down from above, again it's yellow on black branding, and again it's Nike SB swoosh branding on the inside, but alongside you've also got that Zoom Air branding in there as well, which talks to that inserts that go inside the midsole of the shoe to give you a little bit more padding, a little bit more cushion compared to the standard Nike Dunk line. So that's the second point of branding, yellow on black on the insoles. But then the most interesting point of branding comes on the outsole. When we looked at those Game Royals, it wasn't Royals, it was Game Royals. The whole outsole was just a single unit of blue with nothing to define it on there. But on these guys here, you can see it's a very black outsole, but right in the center you've got that big yellow panel, and then on top of having that extra second color on the outsole, you've also got the brand in there again with the SB logos, but this time instead of doing it in black to contrast with the yellow panel, it's yellow on yellow. So it's kind of an interesting play in the way they've gone with the colors and the branding throughout the top, up on the tongues, the insoles in the middle, and then down below on the outsoles. So that was the first thing I wanted to sort of get to, was the branding and the way they've decided to color it and structure it. I suppose I should lead that, before we go into the materials, lead that into the actual blocking of the colors on the shoes. Now what they're talking about is that this is the reverse golden rod, but when they say reverse golden rod, rod. They're only talking about colours, and again, we'll get to the material side of things in a minute, but definitely different materials to the original goldenrods. But basically, if you look at the shoe in the lateral side, there's a line that I always talk about with Dunks and with Air Jordan 1s, and it's that line that goes from toe up the quarter line, across the laces and down the ankle and into the heel. And on the golden rods, that was all in yellow, and then the panels were in black. But in the case of these guys, that has been completely reversed, and that line that runs through the shoe, toe, quarter line, laces, ankle and heel, is in black this time, and then the panels are in yellow. So that's the reverse of the colorway for the golden rod. But as far as materials go, which is the next thing to get to, the materials on the original golden rods were very standard Dunk leathers, but on these guys it's all suede. And I was kind of impressed with the quality of the suede and also the positioning of the suede. So quality wise, if we go look at that, you can see it's a slightly roughed up suede. I wouldn't go so far as to say a fully roughed up suede. I've seen roughed up suede a lot more roughed up than these in the past, but it still isn't a smooth suede. It's definitely got a little bit of treatment in there, and that's to do with the quality of the materials, but the placement of the materials. What really interested me is that they have the suede everywhere. There are some places on a shoe that sometimes they don't go with that extra push into the quality materials. For example, the eyelets and the lacing system around there, sometimes that comes in leather on a suede shoe, particularly the swoosh. So if we zoom in on the swoosh now, you can see that that black swoosh is still in suede again. It's not unusual in shoes to have a suede upper and suede panels, but the swoosh on the side to be in leather, for example. But they've gone with suede all over the shoe, top to bottom. And then if we kind of hark back to those Game Royals that we were talking about before, the video for that, I talked about how often Dunks come in a two-tone, especially if one of those tones matches the midsole. If the midsole's white and one of the upper colors is white, as with the Game Royals, it's a blue and white sneaker with a white midsole, so two-tone. But in the case of these guys, they've still got that white midsole, but the upper is in that maize and black for the yellow and black color up there. So now it becomes a three-tone sneaker because the addition of that midsole white on there adds an extra bit of color to it. I'm either or. It's not like I'm fussy about two-tone Dunks or three-tone Dunks. I think they look great anyway. And in this shoe particular, with that beautiful upper and those amazing materials, I think that's really a step apart, something that really adds a little bit more to the shoe. So harking back to those Game Royals, you can see a sort of similarity in the basic kind of construction. But as far as I'm concerned, this is about as close to high-end collaboration as you can get without it actually being a collaboration. These are the kind of materials and the kind of style that you would want in a shoe, and you'd expect it from a collaboration and not from a standard Dunk high, and that's exactly what these are. They are standard, but they're right at the edge of high quality standard as far as I'm concerned. And I did say I'd save the chat to the end and talk to you guys about why I'm happy that this shoe has come to me now, is because I was really struggling to find shoes to talk about. And these guys drop on July the 2nd. The next shoe I have lined up is actually for July the 7th, and that's a little bit too far away for me. I like to be about 10 days before the drop date. July the 7th would be more than 2 weeks before the drop date, and that's not where I want to be at the channel. So I was grateful to find these guys on the sneaker app here in Tokyo, Japan for July the 2nd. But with global supply lines and shipping lanes especially confused and all over the place, I don't know if these guys are going to drop elsewhere in the world on July the 2nd. On the sneakers app here in Japan, it's a pretty sure thing that that'll be a date that you can stick in the diary for Japan. Don't know about the rest of Asia, don't know about North America and Europe. Is it July the 2nd or is it somewhere else? But I was just sure glad to see them up there in the sneakers app, because then I knew I could put this guy in first before the shoe that is scheduled for July the 7th. So I was glad to have it, glad to see it come around the corner and be a shoe that I can use and bring to the channel today. Speaking of bringing things to the channel today, that's me done for a video for another day. I'm sorry about the dog like ripping up the sofa in the corner in the first couple of minutes of the video, but I kind of like to leave those kind of bits in because it adds a sort of element of naturalness and reality instead of just being a sort of straight kind of like it's just me and you sort of thing. I do have a life. I do have a world outside of YouTube that includes dogs, a little 3-year-old girl, and a full-time job on top of doing daily drops for YouTube. So it's good to leave that stuff in for those reasons. But for now, it's time just to wrap this one up. Another video in the bag and a great looking shoe. Really, truly, when I saw these guys, I was thinking that's the Dunk High that I would definitely like to have for myself fingers crossed, let's see how the draw goes on July the 2nd. For now, though, it's time to wrap up another video, and thank you guys for checking out the content, but I'll say the same thing that I say at the end of every single video, which is I do this every single day, and that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.